Welcome to Tea Time with Shayleigh and Amber. I'm Shayleigh Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you are new here, buckle up. We don't know what's happening anytime we're on these calls, but it's fun. We have a tantalizing conversation. We're excited to have you here. So, it's been a while since we've done a podcast, and you know what's on my mind right now is, well, I want to get back to what we were talking about before this, which was the rain and the lightning and stuff. But I have this thing happening in my life right now where I'm not able to help certain people, and it's crazy to me how I feel so much resistance where I'm getting let me back up, you guys. So I am helping someone right now with her horse, and I have already been told by my guides, his guides, everybody, just like stay out of it, right? And so I like sort of am, but also I sort of amn't. And I asked a specific question today and I received the answer, which was difficult for me to receive. And I told my guides, I can't trust this. I don't trust my intuition right now. I asked this question and I'm like, I can't trust my intuition. And they're like, are you not trusting your intuition or can you just not handle the answer to this question? And we told you you weren't going to be able to handle the answer to this question, and now here you are. This is a lesson for you to bring forth into your listeners because seriously, there are so many times where people will come to me and they're like, I can't trust my intuition, or like, I trust it with little things. And when it comes to big things, I just can't trust it. And I do think that there's that element of don't ask questions that you're not ready to hear the answer to. Because when you're asking those bigger questions, you're asking your intuition to deliver you truth. The truth might not be what you want to hear. And that is like, this scenario that I'm having in multiple different areas of my business right now where it's like I have the answer and yet I either can't say it to the person or I don't like, or the answer is really hard. Or I got told earlier this week that like I wasn't the right communicator for this person. It was so awkward because I had to like be like, hey, sorry, I'm gonna recommend somebody else and refund your money. Can't exactly tell you why, but you know what I mean? Like I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with your animal. It's just like it's so weird. I feel like I'm in this space of leveling up, and maybe part of that is because I went to that meditation retreat, but the leveling up is not going the way I thought it was going to go. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like it's not like I'm experiencing negative stuff. It's just kind of like, oh, I thought, in my mind, I thought leveling up or moving into a new space would be, I have more answers and I'm like guiding more people into like deeper stuff. Meanwhile, it's like, no, you actually don't have the answers for anyone and people have to figure it out. And when you do get the answers, you won't like it and you're not supposed to say it anyway. So that's where I'm at.
That's so true, that expectation of like, oh yeah, like I feel like I'm going through a transition and the expectation is I will understand things deeper, I'll know more, I'll be able to help more people, I'll have so much more clarity, things will feel better. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, did who made that up? Because I will say things are better, right? Every time we like have a big lesson and we like have deeper understandings, and then it's so fulfilling to be able to like pull those lessons through and then like share them with people. So I think in that you get like fulfillment, which feels better, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes life any easier or like there's some magic like thing that's going to happen that's going to be like all of a sudden I have got the gold award and I've done human, check, and now I get to live the rest of my life with ease and flow and nothing hard will ever happen again. And I'm like, who, like, did we make that up? Like, no one told me that, but that's what I realize I have been operating from for a long time. And it's like, wait, where did that fairy tale come? I don't know. I think you just gotta You gotta appreciate the human experience and all the parts of it and let go of expectations of how you think it should or shouldn't, and then just roll with whatever the fuck is coming in your experience at that current time. That's the only way. Be like a little wave of the ocean,
Dandelion.
just flowing and working around it and being like, well, this is fucking crazy. And now what are we gonna do in this moment, you know? Um,
Hmm.
I think the more you do that, there are so many more good moments that get to experience in between, than getting stuck in like a cycle of woe is me and everything's falling apart and I hate everything and everything sucks. So I guess there is that contrast that you don't have to experience if you're actually leveling up. But those, do those people know that they're suffering and creating that? Like maybe not.
I think they know they're suffering, but maybe don't always know that they're creating it, right?
Staying, if they're not creating it, staying, choosing to stay in it, uh,
Hmm.
or at some level choosing, not consciously, obviously, but yeah, it's fascinating. Doing human is fascinating.
I know. I think the leveling up thing comes from the concept of enlightenment, right? Where we're like constantly trying to achieve this level of being more enlightened or being one with source. And it's like going through, and also I think we're like very task oriented or goal oriented people in general, like as a species. So it's like, oh, I checked this one off the list. And now, like, but there's a million more layers. And it's so fascinating to me because when I think on it, I'm like, well, one of my favorite things, like if you were to ask me what one of my favorite things is, it's uplifting people, it's empowering them. And like, you don't empower people through just giving them all the answers, but it's like this weird space to be in where I feel responsible for having the answers as a communicator. And I feel like it's part of my, duty to be able to like channel the voices of these animals and um, provide insight that's going to be helpful and usable for people. And so for me to be like, well, I can't, like, I've told three people this week, well, I can't intervene with that. And I'm like, what does that even mean? It's just coming to me where it's like, I can't intervene with that. Like, this is something that has to be with you. Or, you know what I find myself doing? Don't let this sway you from having a session with me. But like I find myself doing lately is just giving people questions like that. But I will say that it's been really cool to give people questions and to just be like, I could answer this with a statement, but instead, how would you feel about this? What do you think about this? And then they're messaging me like a few days later and they're like, okay, I really thought on this. This was super helpful. And the other thing that I think of too is the amount of times where someone has said, you didn't give me the answer, and that was the best thing that you possibly could have done for me. And that's where I was 10 years ago when I first got Kip, and I was like trying to decide what to do with him, and I kept calling people, and I needed people to give me the answers and stuff. And um, I had a friend where I was like, what do you think I should do? And she was like, no one's gonna make this decision but you. Like, you have to be the one to make the decision. And I hated it. I hated that advice. And it was like the best advice I could have gotten. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, because I feel like the premise of when I first got my coaching certificate and I started like trying to have sessions with people, like my intent was, yeah, I'm gonna talk to these people, and but the whole training was around questions, the questions you're asking, and also following a couple of my mentors, like the quality of questions that you ask determines the quality of your life. And I just had this conversation with a client who I was helping out, and I just heard her kept saying like, what is wrong with me, what is wrong with me, what is wrong, and I was like, you're always going to be able to find something wrong. And if you keep asking yourself that question, your little reticular activating system in your brain is going to go, oh, right here, oh, and right there, and right there. And I was like, my challenge for you is to, every time I ask a question like that, ask, is this question actually creating, the life that I actually want, or am I just finding more of what I don't want? And it does when I first started, I would feel like people were walking away from their sessions and I would feel like a failure because I was like, oh, I didn't help. They don't feel better right now. And that stems from the whole, growing up and being responsible for adults' emotions, etc. So actually going through that process of coaching and then getting comfortable with people being uncomfortable with what I've said to them because they're like, I'm coming to you for the answers. And I'm like, that serves you not at all. Like at the end of the day, if you don't know how to find your own answers, then what have we done except make you dependent on me, which I don't want. I don't even do that to my own children. Like, so it was that was the healing in it for me, actually, just even going through the process of trying to become a coach was like, oh God, like this is horrible. Like I'm a terrible coach. And then it was like, I got coached around it and was like, no, actually this is what you're experiencing. So it brought in a level of healing, a level of understanding of where I needed to heal from the responsibility stuff, which just poke its head up sometimes, but not even close to before. And then you're validated later on, like you were saying, people are coming to you going, thank you. Like that was great. And then you start to realize, okay, so what I am doing is actually serving you. You just might not know it yet, but it is. So I think that's the uplifting and empowering people and back into their own power of like just ask yourself, like what actually, what it keeps being shown to me, and am I asking a question that's bringing that forth, and do I like it? And if I don't, what can I ask myself to, get better answers of what can I do better right now? Or, just the questions that are actually going to give you what you feel like you're searching for. But that's where all that like personal growth and shit comes in. It's not comfortable sometimes, but I don't know. I feel like when you can do that for yourself, you open up so many more possibilities. And then having at least one person in your life around you that, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a friend, family, whatever, where you have that agreement of like, can you call me out when you hear me doing that? We do that for each other constantly. And it's wild because my boyfriend just asked me last week, he's like, if you hear me being super negative, like, can you say something to me? And I was like, did you, did you? This is
I'm so proud.
great. This is great because, I've had to go, this is who I have in my life. And as a man who I was kind of being judgy about it, right? Like I was being a little like, you're so negative, like da da da. But then I started really to unwind what I want as a woman and to be able to just like be around him, not think about logistics, just be in my own little like dingy bubble and like floating along, like living life and being told, like, I don't mind that. I know that's not for everyone. And I definitely was on the other side of it where fuck that, no man's gonna blah, blah, blah. But now I'm like, I don't know, like I could do both. But in order for a man to be like that, their brains are wired to look for threat. Like they're more wired to do that, right? And so I'm like sitting here judging him for, being like, oh, this could go wrong. Oh yeah, but this could go right, and so I stopped judging him around that. And I started going, oh, this is how he's wired. And I can learn to appreciate that he's looking for that. And my role in that relationship is to also bring the light side to it. Like, well, maybe this happens, or maybe this is why. And they're both can exist. But I also love that he finally was like, maybe I don't need to be so negative because the scale did feel a little heavy on the negativity side. So that's great. So like having people around you that can be like, hey, here's that's interesting. What else can we say that's different than that, and it's helpful because you don't know you're doing it all the time, and to be your own accountability partner is not the easiest, but it can totally be done.
hmm Yeah, that just takes me back to when I went to that meditation retreat and we had to write our name in a vertical line and put three positive attributes about like what that start with each character. And I was like, great, I have all the letters of
The
the alphabet
longest
and
name.
every single vowel. But it was fascinating because it wasn't that hard for me, right? Like it was hard for me to do a Y because all I could think was yodel. And I was like, that's not, well, that's not a positive attribute. And then I was like, yodel, yak, yawning. Like I was like, I don't know. I can't think of a freaking positive word. And I think, like, can you think of one for a Y? Like I was so, I think I ended up doing like, says yes to life or something. Like I had to like turn it into something. Actually, no, I have the thing here. Let me just see what it is real quick.
Word youthful keeps coming to mind
Oh
because
yeah, maybe I did. I could have done youthful. I might have done youthful. It was such it was like such an interesting thing, but the
why
reason
is
why,
hard though. Why is a hard
yeah.
one?
Oh yeah, youthful is the only one. That's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great, great news. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, why is
but yeah, Y is super hard, but I had people in there and they had like four letters to their name and they all had one word. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like it was crazy to me. It like put things into perspective where I was like, do they really only have one word, or like is it truly difficult for people to celebrate themselves in this way to say? And then it was interesting because like he went around the room and he was like, I'm going to give you more attributes and you write down the ones that you think are good. And he told one girl, beautiful. And she's like, no, I don't think I can write that. And he's like, okay, um, I can't remember all the things, but it was like these positive attributes. And she was like, I don't know, maybe. And it was fascinating to see how it was difficult for them to receive that energy. And it just made me so grateful for the work that we've done with each other and in our community because like we're able to celebrate each other. We're able to find and we work so much with finding the positive attributes of others. And after you say so many times like I know you're beautiful because there's beauty within me. You start to believe that. You start to believe the things that you say. So it was really cool for me to be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm living the things that I'm like saying and teaching
I
and
have
believing."
integrated. I'm not
I
a
have
fraud.
integrated the
Great.
things. That's so cool. Yeah. On the flip side of that, I don't think that I ever really and this goes back to like what I said in the beginning with like having all the answers because I have people come to me in desperation sometimes and they are so desperate for the answers and like it makes my heart like want to help like I really want to help you and I know you can relate to that too. And I never really understood that like deep desperation because my wounding is more like an independent, like go within wounding pattern. So like I don't seek other people really. But I did a healing there. And I got to experience the feeling of desperation, for like
Oh.
true desperation, I think, for the first time in my life. And it was fascinating. It was so overcoming that it made me start begging like God or source energy. So all right, let me tell you guys what happened. So, it was a healing and it was going back into the womb. And I actually didn't know that it was going to be that type of healing. And admittedly, I was all jaded at first. I was like, oh God, I do all this like
I've
inner
already
healing.
been back to the womb.
Yeah, I've already been back to the womb, man. Take myself back to the womb all the time. I don't want to be here. All right, I left that place 33 years ago. So I was kind of like, all right, we're here, whatever. And then I was like, you know what? Like, just be in it and see what happens. You never know. Like, just surrender. So it took her a while to kind of like get past my shell because she was like asking me the questions that we would ask our clients, right? Like, how would it feel if you knew the answer? And da 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 da. And so I'm like bebopping along, like going through the thing. And she's like, okay, we're gonna go back in time. You're gonna be on your mom's chest. What does it look like? I'm giving you guys the cliff notes because you don't want to hear the whole thing. And so I'm like, huh, it's weird. She kind of looks desperate. And I said it from like a disconnected place where I was kind of like confused. I don't know that I was judging it. I just didn't understand it. I'm just like, oh, my mom looks kind of desperate. My mom had a tumultuous childhood, and I'm her firstborn. And when I say tumultuous, it was like very abusive. And so we went on through the healing, and then there was this one point where like my heart was like so closed, so restricted. And I don't know what brought me into this place, but I was answering the questions, and then all of a sudden, I think she was just doing energy work on me, and I could feel myself be like, please just take this. Like, I don't want to, like, I've done enough work around this. I'm tired of feeling this. Please take it. Please take it. Please. And I was just saying it over and over again. And then I was like, God, source, angels, like, give her the strength, give her the tools to take this from me, give her the clarity, give her the healing. I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I was like begging in my mind and like saying it over and over again. And then bam, I recognized it. I was like, oh, fuck, that's desperation, dude. I was like, oh, I had like this whole thing where I like popped up and she was like, oh, and I was like, hold on, I gotta tell you something. It was like in the middle of the healing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think you just gave me everything that I needed because I didn't understand the desperation it and what I felt like desperation was, and I'm curious if you have had the same experience of it where it was I felt like a victim of it, like I didn't have the ability to control in that moment. I was like, this is placed on me and I am not strong enough to heal it myself or to change this myself. I need somebody to take this from me. And it felt like that had to happen. And then it also felt to me like It was so weird. It was like I felt like I couldn't change it, or there was not going to be any balance in my experience unless it left. So it just gave me almost like that victim mentality, and it made me feel like I am not whole unless this heavy energy in my heart changes or something like that. But because I have like, it was so weird because it integrated where I realized that like that wasn't true. Once I made that association, I was like, oh, I'm feeling really desperate. Right now, it feels like I need this person to give me the power to change, but like I could just make peace with it right now because right now, this heaviness in my heart is giving me the ability to relate to people who are so desperately needing the answers. And now I can understand why they feel that way. Um, yeah, how do you feel about all that? It's interesting.
First of all, I just love that. Were you laying down and you just like popped up in the
Oh,
middle of
yeah. Oh, yeah. My eyes were closed and everything. I was under a blanket, and then I was like, wait.
what
Popped
was
up
it?
like a little jack in the box.
Heart attack for that woman. It's like, oh God. Um, I think for me, I can relate to the feeling of desperation, but from a place where it's different because I felt that desperation and I can track it right back to when I'm 3 years old. Like, for those of you that don't know, I was on the dock. My dad died. I'm not meaning to talk about it so coldly, but like there was a level of desperation, and also no one ever came. No one ever helped. No one ever. So it was almost like my experience is separated from the desperation. So when I hear somebody desperate, like I don't get sucked in. And I don't know if that's because I'm like detached and maybe I need healing around the desperation, but I see it and I don't go with them. And I think there's something in that that I can say is a gift because I can allow someone to be there and then still, because I'm not being sucked in, I can offer like support. I'm here with you, but the the piece of I'm not going to take this for you. I'll carry
Mhm.
parts of it with you right now, but ultimately it's yours. Um, so the desperate feeling, but I can look back and think of like with Rocco, like the most not sugar because I kind of felt like that started slow with the seizures and I knew it had to be done. It wasn't like I was questioning. I was very clear, like, I cannot watch this happen to you over and over again. So that was easy in the way that, like, to make the decision, I don't feel like I needed to reach out to anybody. I was like, this is what needs to happen. With Rocco, though, that was, I don't know what it was different about that. I felt desperate in the way that I just wanted to know what was going to happen on the other side. But I knew no one could give that to me. Like, it wouldn't matter if I asked you, it wouldn't matter if I asked anyone that was intuitive or whatever. Like, I knew no one was going to know because he didn't even know. And I felt like things were unfolding in that current moment, like moment by moment. And then I got to the point where I was like, I actually don't want to know because I don't want anyone's input to feed into what lesson can be happening right now. I just want to stay like present through this and acknowledge that it's like ripping my soul out for, well, I guess backstory, my dog Rocco got a cut. He ended up with tetanus. We watched the symptoms of tetanus for probably 3 days, not knowing what it was. Well, now I know. So for those of you out there, if your dog's ears start to stand up and they don't
Yeah.
normally stand up, fucking go to the vet immediately. Because also, the sooner you catch it, the better likelihood they have to heal from it. And some vets don't always carry the stuff. And why don't they tell you when your dog gets a cut to look out for those signs? I don't know, but if you hear it here, take it along with you, pass it to the world. Because the vets knew exactly what was happening the moment I got him in there. So he got to the point where he was neurological. I took him in. They just happened to have the stuff they give him, which just stops the progression. It doesn't actually heal it. So that's why it's important to get there as soon as possible. But when I dropped him off and I left him there, I felt like completely desperate because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And I just want someone to give me some type of certainty right now, someone to tell me it is going to be. But I knew even if someone were to show up and say that, like I still didn't know. So then I went through this process of never mind. I don't need to know. I'm just gonna go to the I'm gonna go to the brewery down the street from the vet, call my sister, and we're gonna sit there and drink a fucking beer because there's nothing else I can do right now and try to talk to people and like distract myself. Um, but I think something happened with me early on that I can sit with someone who's desperate and I can
But you know what I think is interesting about that is like part of what led you to that balance is that you were going to be okay with him transitioning.
Right.
And then I wonder if that was the wisdom from your 3-year-old you.
Right. And yeah, so that it was like and I was okay then and I'll be okay now. And like, so it was just sort of this like little loop that was like going that has shown up in my life in different places where the responsibility piece needed to be worked out for sure because there was me feeling responsible around my dad's death, even though I was 3, there was literally nothing I could do. There still is a part of me that would see 911 shows and be like, oh, look at that little kid. That little kid figured out how to call 911. You know, what a miracle. And I was like, then it was like guilt and like shame and then responsibility. And so I think that piece needed to work out. But on the other side, that one part that stayed is leaves me available to be able to help people that are in that way and not be affected by it. So I think that was kind of the virtue that came from that piece for me around desperation.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, and I think I had to learn the desperation because my mom, essentially what I found in the healing was that my mom tried to place her desperation. The first thing my little body said when we went to connect with her, like in the womb before I was like born, was like, I don't belong here. I was all angry. And I was like, I don't belong here. And it was interesting because the desperation piece, like my mom was so desperate, and it was almost like this desperation of like, I need you to change my life. I need you to be that connection for me. Like, no one has ever loved me. I am going to love you with all of my heart, and you are going to love me back. And I look back through like all my childhood and I have always like appreciated my mom, but we've had a difficult relationship where I'm constantly pushing her away. Like her energy feels invasive to me. And I never understood that. And I think it's because I wouldn't accept that desperation as a kid. I was more like, I have other plans for you, or like I have other plans for myself. And there's so many virtues that I've gained through my mom and through my childhood. And it's like really cool to look back on it, but it was interesting to like have that healing experience and to feel essentially like the vibrational energy of what she might have felt in that moment and be like, oh wow, like this was a very real thing for you. And now I can't fault you for it. I don't, because it's easy when you don't understand something, you can say like, okay, I can sort of understand where you're coming from, and you might judge it a tiny bit just because you don't know what it is and how it feels. So it's kind of like, well, why are you feeling that way? Like there's a whole nother way you could be feeling. And I think on some level, even though I do feel like I have a lot of empathy for others, there is that piece of like, you don't have to feel that way, right? And so it was fascinating to be in that space of like desperation and being like, whoa, when I was in that for that 5 minutes of like repeating over and over again and feeling like I was never going to get out of this, like that was super real for me. So, yeah, kind of cool. And now you guys know what I'm doing in my off time, my extracurricular activities. Oh, Amber, are you muted? Oh, you're frozen. Well, Amber is in a massive thunderstorm and it seems like her internet has cut off, but in divine timing, apparently that is how it's meant to be. So, hope you enjoyed our healing stories, our stories about desperation, and everything else in between. If you like this episode, please like and share, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for hanging out.